Today, I wanted to talk about a couple of books that have like social media, influencers, acting in Hollywood, acting in New York City, tied into the plot, the characters, setting, etc., things like that. I used to really not like it when books had things like that incorporated into the book. And at this point, I don't really remember why, but since I've started reading a couple of more books that have all of these things tied into the plot, the character setting, etc., I have come to really enjoy when books do this, and I have been really enjoying when books kind of dive into like the darker themes and the darker things that happen with like social media and Hollywood, New York City, acting, influencers, things like that. And a lot of the books that I have today that I want to talk about do dive into these things in various different like levels. I also have like two books that I want to read that deal with this kind of thing that I'll mention at the end because I have quite a long list of books that deal with these things that I really just want to talk about a little bit today. Also, I'm not feeling well. I have no idea what's up with me. I feel so exhausted and I don't know why, but I really wanted to make this video because I've been thinking about it and I just really wanted to kind of throw in a couple of books that I have read and enjoyed that deal with these kind of things. As bad as I feel today, I will just keep on going and hopefully this will be like a nice distraction for me too. This first book that I have mentioned it quite a few times in a couple of videos. I've talked about it on my Bookstagram page, and that is The Manchineel by Jessica Carrasquillo. I will say this is an older version of the cover, I believe. The author came out with newer versions of the book and its cover. I don't have those. I would like to get them at some point, but for now, I have the older version of this book. So, with this book, I will say I absolutely love this book, and this is honestly one of my favorite books like of all time. But I do just want to read some of the trigger warnings in here just so you know what this book has and if this is a deciding factor for you if you want to read it or not. So the author's note in this book says, please be advised that the following work contains themes and scenes that may be triggering to some readers, including DV, strong language, and references to SA. It is important to approach this work with caution if you find these topics particularly distressing. Remember to practice self care and seek support if needed. So, in the Machineel, we follow two characters. We follow Elise, who is like a garden YouTuber, and she talks about plants because she loves plants. And if you didn't know this, because I didn't know this, Manchineel, I am pretty sure is like a real plant. So, that was something cool that I learned throughout this book. And we also follow someone named Ben, who is like a Hollywood attorney within the entertainment industry, obviously in Hollywood. With Elise, we learned that she has been essayed and groomed by an older man from when she was living in Miami, and she made her way to Los Angeles, where she is now like a garden YouTuber. And I believe one of her friends introduces her to Ben so that way Elise can get like management, sponsorships, things like that. So that is how these two characters meet. And we learn with Ben, he is married to, I believe her name is Anna, and Anna's dad is basically Ben's boss. Ben experiences a lot of DV throughout his marriage by the hands of Anna. So, when it comes to Elise and Ben, they meet through basically work. These are two really lonely, sad, broken people, and they begin to bond with each other. And something that I really loved about the Manchineel in terms of like the social media stuff and the Hollywood thing is those things are not super overpowering in this story. They're definitely the force that drives Ben and Elise together. And what I really like is just how well and seamless that those two like industries made it so Ben and Elise can meet each other. If it like really hyped up that like Elise made it all the way from Miami all the way to Los Angeles, and one of her friends like introduced her to like a Hollywood attorney, and they like plucked her from obscurity and made her channel like grow to thousands and thousands to millions of followers, I think maybe it wouldn't have felt like realistic for me. I feel like this was just done so naturally and so seamlessly. That's why I really love it, because I feel like for Elise, it was just like a natural progression of her career on social media. I think that's what made it just feel really like believable to me, if that makes sense. It wasn't some like extraordinary rags to riches kind of thing. It was just a natural progression for Elise to get like management for her YouTube channel. And it felt just kind of natural for Ben to have like yet another influencer under his belt to take care of in terms of getting management, sponsorships, things like that for her. So I think that's more what I mean. It just felt really natural. So this next book that I have, I actually read it this year. I've mentioned it in one video for sure, and I can't remember if I mentioned it in another video or not. But either way, that second book is called Birds of California by Katie Cotugno. So we follow Fiona St. James and Sam Fox. They used to be on a TV show together where they played siblings, and they were on this TV show when they were kids going into their teen years, I believe. It's years later now. Fiona, everyone says she had like this breakdown. She left Hollywood. She isn't acting anymore. While Sam, on the other hand, continued to act throughout his teen years into his adult years. And he was on like this super popular TV show where he played like Dr. Heartbreak, Dr. Heart something. He was just like this, he was like a sexy doctor or something, I'm pretty sure. But years go by, and this show that they were on, Birds of California, was so loved by everyone. And at some point, the producers, the directors of the show want to do a reboot. And they task Sam with trying to get Fiona to do the reboot with them. And throughout this book, we essentially see Fiona and Sam get to sort of get to know each other once again after all these years. Sam doesn't really understand what happened to Fiona, so he's learning about her life and like the dark secrets that she's had. And Fiona sees why Sam is so like hell-bent on doing this reboot. And something that I really like about this book is that while it can seem really fun and maybe sort of like a comfort to see, like, if you have a favorite family sitcom and you see everyone grown up and you hear that they're going to do a reboot, I feel like that can feel really nice and exciting, but you see just like the darker stuff behind the scenes. This book really touches well on like the risky business of acting because Sam has an agent, but you see Sam begin to really struggle to land acting jobs, and you see his agent start to kind of pull away from him, which is really confusing because Sam was on this popular TV show and I believe it got canceled, and you see him just really struggle to, I guess, not only hear from his agent about getting like acting or auditions, I believe, but you see him also struggle to really land a role. So you can see how risky it is to break into the acting industry in Los Angeles. And it's also confusing because everyone loved the like doctor show he was on. So you would think he would have an easy time getting like the next gig, but he doesn't have an easy time. It's really hard. And you see him struggle because this is like a dream of his and he really loves doing it. But you see time and time again, every day and every phone call that he gets from his agent, where the agent tells him that he got rejected for the audition. You just see him really struggle to see why he continues to stay in an industry that just doesn't want to cast him anymore. And then with Fiona, what I really liked is, I won't say much with Fiona because this, what I do think like you should read it because I think it's just really good, but you see through Fiona's eyes and her story of why she had this quote unquote breakdown, you see just how predatory the industry is with the producers, the directors. They will take advantage of not just everybody, but I think especially young, impressionable girls who just want to act. You see how these men will just exert their power over them while also being like, if you want to continue in this career, you have to do what I say. If you want a good career, you have to do what I want. And then you just see how and why Fiona went through what she went through. And you, for myself, I found it to be incredibly valid. And I was really glad with like the direction that she ended up wanting her life to go in instead. And I really loved seeing the relationship between Sam and Fiona blossom because even though they knew each other when they were kids, they really don't know each other as adults. Their relationship was carved to be a certain way when they knew each other when they were kids and teenagers. So now that they're out of this mold, they can really see the true person that they are underneath it all. I really loved that it dug deeper into the darker sides of like acting in Los Angeles, Hollywood. Sam was getting dropped from audition after audition, and we see him trying to cling on to his dream. And we see just how awful Fiona was treated. And we see how that really like left a really huge impact on her and why she led the life that she did after leaving Hollywood. I will say for Birds of California, when Fiona is finally telling Sam about her story, there is mention of SA from when she was a teenager, I believe. So keep an eye out for that. And it's a little bit more towards the end. Um, it's going to be like when I'm pretty sure Sam and Fiona are talking about why Fiona acted the way that she did. And I will say, you do get like some little inklings throughout the book, but I'm a little bit like ditzy and I feel like I'm oblivious. I didn't realize what those like hints were alluding to until Fiona told her whole story. And then after she told her story, all of those like reflections that she was having, like it finally clicked for me. But I just wanted to mention that real fast. There is essay mentioned from when Fiona was like a teenager. So I don't have these next couple of books as physical copies. The next book that I want to talk about is Death in the Downline, a multi-level marketing murder mystery by Maria Abrams. I'm pretty sure I read this book sometime June 2025. Like June is standing out to me. And I find MLMs like incredibly interesting to like talk about. So I feel like I finished this in one day. If I didn't finish it in one day, it's most likely I started it one day and finished it the next. But I can kind of vividly remember when I was reading this book, and I'm pretty sure I just finished it in the day. So, Death in the Downline is essentially a cautionary tale about joining a multi level marketing company. It shows you just how predatory everything is. The sales reps, how they like get you essentially, is they will post on social media just how amazing their life is. They'll put up this image that they are like healthier through the products that they use, or how they have more money because they are using this MLM as like passive income, I believe is what they call it. Like they can make their own schedule, they can give themselves a raise if they want to, they can make more money than the person that recruited them. They tell you that you can earn more money than what they're earning. So they just paint this picture that their life is so amazing because of this multi level marketing company. But when Drew, the female main character of this book, Drew joins this MLM company through her childhood best friend to enemy to best friend again, named Steph. And something about MLM companies is they will essentially target people who are vulnerable, whether financially or if they're a single parent or if they're a military parent. They will go after people who are in dire need of money, and they will sell this picture to these vulnerable people saying that they don't have to be in this state of like worry anymore if they join their company, which again it comes back to the predatory practice of like the company telling these people, you'll make this much money, you can make more than me, look at all of these people who joined, they're doing so amazing now, you need this company. Like put the cost on your credit card, and then in like a week you will no longer be in financial despair anymore. But when Drew joins the company, I believe it's called Luminous, which is a really good name, Drew sees just how fake everything is. Not just the predatory nature of the multi level marketing company, but how social media is used to essentially just trick people into joining the company. So I really like that, even though like it's more so it's like I mentioned, a multi-level marketing cautionary tale. We see how these companies will use social media to trick people to join. And then when that person joins, this company will just siphon as much money as they can from this person who joined, who is in need of money. and they got tricked into thinking that this company will provide that for them. But the company won't. It's all fake and it's predatory. I feel a little bit more awake now after talking about this. But I mentioned I really enjoy this topic, and I think this book did a really good job at showing the predatory nature of these companies and how they use social media to trick people, and how they will use the guise of like mentorship and friendship to again lure in vulnerable people if maybe they're not like if they don't need more money, or if they're not a single parent, or if they're not a military parent, maybe they just need friends. They will also say, if you join this company, you will have this sisterhood of all of these sales reps with you, like cheering you on, being your friend, blah, blah, blah. But again, Drew joins this company, sees how fake it is, see how predatory it is. And I think this book did a really great job at showing all of those things. And that's why this is one of my favorite books that kind of talk about the dark side of social media. Another book that I read and I loved, and I actually read it this year, I read Tradwife by Saratoga Schaefer. And I won't go on too much about this book because I did post a review of it over on my Bookstagram. We are following an influencer named Camille, and she is a tradwife. She shows on her Instagram page how she's up from like sun up to sundown, cleaning the house, cooking for her husband, doing all these things, making food from scratch, all while looking incredibly put together. And she is putting up this image of herself on social media. But what I really loved about this book is we see how influencers can be really quick to sell out or turn their back on like their morals and their ethics, all in the name of money. And also to become friends with other people in this circle of like influencers. We see Camille put up this certain image of herself, but then we see her get a couple of comments that know her from like years prior, and they point out flaws in the story that she's telling to her audience. And I really love that because you see that obviously nowadays with a lot of influencers present themselves one way, but then someone else from their past will be like, you used to not believe in this and you used to do this. This is not who you are anymore. You're only doing this for money, for free stuff, for sponsorships, for things like that. So I think I really loved that Tradwife touched on that kind of thing. And it also shows, or at least for me, I did feel bad for Camille. It also shows just like the darker side of things because she cares so much about what a certain influencer thinks. And this influencer is one that she really looks up to. And whenever that big name influencer talks to Camille, you see just how it makes Camille's day. And you start to feel kind of sad for her because you see just how isolated she is. And essentially, I just feel like she was just lonely and she was craving attention and love and respect from other people. And any little ounce of that she got from someone, I think that just she really held on to that. But we see just how fake that is. Like this big name influencer, she's not Camille's friend. And you see that, but Camille doesn't see that right away. So I feel like you kind of just feel sad for Camille. Tradwife by Saratoga Schaefer did a really great job on showing how influencers will turn their back on their morals and their ethics in order to get a larger audience, more money, sponsorships, better management, free stuff, friendship, and like this exclusive inner circle of like influencers on social media. I think this book did a really great job on like showing the dark side of things, but also elicits some sympathy from you as well. So, this next book, I actually can't remember when I read it, but I feel like it was somewhere in 2024, maybe 2023. Now, 2022 is coming to mind. I don't remember what year I read this, but I did read it. And this next book is called You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria. From what I can remember, it is essentially about two actors. They're living in New York City, and I think eventually they star in like a telenovela together. The female main character, her name, it says right here, is Jasmine Lynn Rodriguez, and we follow also the main male character, Ashton Suarez. Something that I liked that this book did is also show the predatory nature of, again, acting in New York City, but more so towards like, I guess, like tabloids and fans, if I'm remembering correctly, because Jasmine goes through a very public breakup. And I believe her ex was like a rock star. And after this breakup, like everybody is just like talking about it. And her breakup is like super public in the tabloids, in the news. And I feel like sometimes a couple of fans would go up to her or like post comments on like her social media or something, just talking about her breakup to her. And I'm pretty sure with that, it just felt so like intrusive. It felt like there was like people just did not know boundaries. So I feel like in that with Jasmine, it shows you maybe sometimes how fans can just overstep a lot. So I feel like it shows like how predatory, again, how the industry is, but it can show you that sometimes fans just need to like chill the fuck out and not be so enveloped in your personal life. And I believe with Ashton, with his background, I don't want to say what it is because when I learned what it was just so, so good. But with Ashton's background, again, we see how some people will, quote unquote, fans will maybe step out of line. You see the lengths someone will go to be close to their favorite celebrity and close to the point where it actually becomes a danger to that celebrity as well as a danger to their family, their friends, and their loved ones. And you see just how much privacy Ashton really cherishes and really prioritizes with himself because of certain interactions. Fans just get a little bit way too close to their favorite celebrity, and how, when you're a celebrity, I guess a lot of your personal life and your privacy is really not personal or private. It will be put on blast. And I'm pretty sure that can feel super suffocating. I don't want to say vulnerable because that doesn't feel like a strong enough word. Maybe like defenseless, because when your whole life or when a certain like heartbreak or event is just put on blast for everyone to see, I can only imagine how defenseless that can feel and how violating it can be for your privacy and your personal life, especially for those people in your life that have nothing to do with it. So this was a really fun book, and I believe You Had Me at Hola was one of the first books where I read where it dealt with acting in like New York City that I ended up really enjoying and really appreciating. That's all I will say about You Had Me at Hola. I believe this is called the Primas of Power series, and I believe there's three books. I definitely want to continue it. I think it was just a really fun book to read, and it definitely gave me like a newfound appreciation for this kind of setting for books. So with these last two books that I want to mention, they dive back into like much more darker themes compared to like You Had Me at Hola. But the next book that I want to talk about is called Camp 1985 by Matthew R. Core. I've also mentioned this book in a video like quite a while ago. This is essentially a summer program where parents send their social media obsessed teenagers to essentially like get rid of their obsession and to get off the damn phone. I'm pretty sure in this book we follow quite a few like influencers, teenage influencers. The main character, I'm pretty sure they were a dancer. There's another influencer who was a gamer, and I'm pretty sure they start a romantic relationship. And I believe the sequel continues their romantic relationship. Another teenage influencer has a prank channel, I believe. Another influencer, I'm pretty sure she was geared more towards like makeup, fashion, lifestyle, what have you. The final influencer, I'm pretty sure her dog was like the famous one. She had an Instagram page for her dog. So we are following these five different influencers, and we see them enter this camp. And again, the whole point of the camp is to get them off their damn phone. But after some time, mysterious things start to happen at this campsite. And eventually, one by one, people start to get unalived. It also kind of goes into like the supernatural theme in here. And if I'm remembering correctly, I don't want to get it wrong. A trigger warning for this book would be homophobia, torture, and I'm pretty sure torture of a teenager, which is incredibly sad. This was also one of the very early books I read that dealt with social media and influencers. That's all I will say about this book. It was definitely a very interesting read, and I'm pretty sure I read this with quite a few other people, and I can't remember what their thoughts were, but I remember definitely like at the end when we were all discussing our thoughts, I'm pretty sure that we all just pretty much enjoyed it. So, this last book that I've read that deals with social media and influencers is Julie Chan is Dead by Lian Zhang. And in this book, we follow someone named Julie Chan who steps into the shoes of her estranged twin sister, Chloe Van Heusen. I don't know how to say the last name. So, Julie and Chloe are twins. However, they were separated quite early on in their childhood years, and they only reunite after Chloe did some digging, found Julie, her twin sister, and Chloe basically made a spectacle of meeting her twin sister for the first time after being separated for so many years. And at some point, Chloe is no more. And Julie, who is working at a dead end job at a supermarket. I don't want to say she's a loser because that's kind of mean, but she's not doing so hot herself. So when she sees the chance to take over Chloe's life as a well known influencer who has a lot of money, a nice apartment, a huge following, and gets to go on trips and fancy events, Julie takes that chance to essentially become Chloe. And in Julie's journey of learning what it means to be Chloe, making videos, taking on these sponsorships, going to events, she sees also the dark side of social media. I will say with Julie Chan is Dead, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought it would. I thought it was going in one particular direction, but then it went in a completely different direction. And I don't know how I feel about that. Even to this day, when I think about it, I'm I don't know, I can see the vision, I guess. But again, I just thought it was going one way. It went the other way, but that's fine because I still think this is a really great example of showing the darker side of social media and influencers because you see that a lot of these influencers don't even really like each other. It's very clicky. A lot of them are honestly just mean. So I feel like this book did a really great job at showing the interactions between different influencers and how even though on your For You page it looks like they're all buddy buddy and best friends and sisterhood and blah 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 whatever else they say, it's really not. So I think that did a really great job in showing the behind the scenes of influencers interacting with each other. And I guess something also that it does really well is when Julie is pretending to be Chloe and she's making all these videos and she essentially is living as Chloe. She has her apartment, all of her clothes. Julie begins to try and become Chloe and she sees how hard it is in the sense of her image starts to be really picked at. I feel like at one point Julie was trying to work out and going on diets to try and fit into Chloe's clothes. I hope I'm not misremembering that because I could have sworn she was trying to work out, trying to follow Chloe's plan of exercising and working out. And Julie just feels so burnt out. She doesn't feel well. And she's hating how her body looks because it doesn't look how Chloe's body looks in these clothes that she has. So I think it does really well in showing how that life is just not all that it's chalked up to be. You're always on social media, you're always quote unquote on. People are always going to nitpick your appearance, your personality, your choices, just everything about you is on blast for people to criticize. And that criticism is not always constructive. People sometimes are just plain mean. And I'm pretty sure that's something that Julie learns in her impersonation of Chloe. So I'm pretty sure that was something that this book touched on. And I hope I'm right. There were a lot of things about this book that I did enjoy, minus the direction I thought it was going to go. There were still a lot of things about this book that I thought did really well. So, while all of those books that I mentioned are books that I read and I loved that talked about social media, influencers, acting, intertwined in the plot, the characters, the setting, blah, 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 there are also two other books that I want to mention that are books that I really, really want to read that talk about these things. One of my book friends posted about this book, and when I read it, I was like, I definitely want to read this book. And that is I Could Be Famous by Sydney Rend, Sydney Renday. I'm not sure which is the correct pronunciation. I did check and I got two different pronunciations, so I'm not sure if it's Rend or Rende, but I Could Be Famous says this for the summary. A listless woman befriends an influencer at a rooftop party, only to discover her lifestyle is not as glamorous as it seems. A college freshman gives the world's longest BJ to a boy whose name she's forgotten. A fan favorite reality TV star joins a dating app after an explosive breakup. Ready to move on, but she finds she's only in control when cameras are rolling. While working in a hot tub showroom, a struggling actress goes method so she can nail an audition for the role of high school junkie girlfriend. Threaded throughout these explorations of neurosis and aspirations is one Arlo Banks, a hotshot actor who faces his own downfall when he's accused of cannibalism. From the dazzling to the mundane, Brende's brilliant, unnerving, cynical stories hold a mirror to our obsession with how we're perceived and our ache to be adored. Above all else, I Could Be Famous is a love letter to big ambitions and bigger dissatisfactions, belief in ourselves, and the fascination we hold with the idea that we could somehow, someday, be famous. That is one of the books that I really want to read. It also isn't a super long book, and if it's like an anthology or short stories, I feel like I could definitely read that in 1 or 2 days. And considering there's a lot of different stories and experiences, I feel like it's going to be a really fun time reading that book. So, this last book that I have and would really love to read, I actually just got it yesterday. I will be showing it in a haul video soon. The second story that I want to read that deals with social media, influencers, acting is this one here, The Star and the Strange Moon by Constance Sayers. So I have never heard of this author before, I'm pretty sure, because when I was checking out, the cashier was telling me about another book that this author wrote that like broke her heart or something. So I've never heard of this author before, but I found this book and I thought it sounded so interesting, and it was on a really good deal, so I'm glad that I got it. And the inside here, 1968. Gemma Turner once dreamed of stardom. Now the actress is on the cusp of obscurity. When she's offered the lead in a radical new film, Gemma believes her luck has changed. But her dream is about to turn into a nightmare. One night, between the shadows of an alleyway, Gemma disappears on set and is never seen again. Yet Gemma is alive. She's been pulled into the film, and the script, and the monsters within it are coming to life. 2007. Gemma Turner's disappearance is one of Hollywood's greatest mysteries, one that's captivated film director Christopher Kent ever since he saw L'Étrange Loom for the first time. The screenings only happen once a decade, and each time there is new, impossible footage of Gemma that shouldn't exist. Curiosity drives Christopher to unravel the truth, but answers to the film's mystery may leave him trapped by it forever. I think that sounds so cool. And I'm really wondering like what the monsters are, like if it's supernatural or if like she made some sort of like demon deal to like be famous or something. So I'm really curious about which way this story could go. Even though there's a lot of similarities in terms of like influencers and stuff, every book that has these things just has a different take on it. And it's been really fun to read each book and to see the unique story that each author puts out when it comes to these things. I still can't remember why I didn't really like this kind of thing at books. I think maybe I just wasn't giving it a chance. And to be fair, I don't know what other books existed back then that had this kind of setting to it that maybe I would have loved. But I'm glad that I'm reading more of it. So, yeah, that's all that I really wanted to mention today. I would love to know what your favorite book is that deals with social media, influencers, and acting. Maybe what is something you don't like when books include as the setting or within the plotline, the character, etc. Thank you so much for listening to me and for being patient with how tired I feel. I hope I see you next time.